place down there on, I forget the name of the beach, south. What's the name of it? South of Carolina.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our special called meeting. I'm Emily Truman. I serve as the 2026 Chair of the Gates County Board of Commissioners. I'm joined by Vice Chair Nathan Berryman, Commissioner Jonathan Craddock, Commissioner Brian Roundtree, Commissioner Dave Forsyth, County Manager Scott Sauer, and Clerk of the Board Renee Traver. Renee Draper. Commissioner Roundtree is going to provide the invocation and lead the pledge.
Dear Lord, we thank you, Lord, for this day. We thank you, Lord, that we will begin to handle county business in this special meeting. We ask you, Lord, to give us wisdom, give us guidance. Lord, let us work together collaboratively to achieve the goals and the outcomes for our constituents. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, sir. So we have the discussion items here to include the community center, senior center. Let's see, the gym's relocation. There's a fireworks funding proposal and water projects. So I'm going to turn this over to County Manager Sauer to begin with the community center and the senior center project.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. As I had communicated to the board a couple of weeks ago, as we're looking at specifically the community center project and the fact that our scope of programming seems to have grown to the point where we might need $10 or $12 million, there might be other options out there, because it's going to take years to generate that amount of money. And with the recent availability of the Buckland property, there may be a way, at least for the senior activities programming, to relocate that over to the Buckland site. But concurrent with that thinking, I've been marinating over discussions and thoughts that have been shared about our need for an evaluation of our facilities, an assessment of our space requirements, and some future planning. The monies that we have in the SCIF grant, the State Construction Infrastructure Grant, we have had committed and programmed for designing a new community center for construction, which is why the architectural firm was selected through your RFQ process. And we began thinking that it'd be a shame to come up with a great design but not have the ability to put it out to bid because we don't have the money. And Lisa Cherry and I had an opportunity to meet with, I'm going to make sure I get this right, Alicia Kerwan of the Skinner Farlow Kerwan architecture firm, and ask her if their firm would entertain a fairly significant adjustment in the scope of work to provide services for the evaluation of our facility, the assessment of our needs, and if the board is interested, even dial in the school system with this, because as we have discussed, the potential for an athletic complex or athletic track, whatever that looks like, in dialogue we've had with Alicia, their firm has done quite a bit of school complex work, and they are willing to do that and have this conversation, and I think that's certainly appropriate within the RFQ process that we work through with the board. I mean, the board interviewed 5 or 6 firms, and you select the firm you felt most comfortable dealing with, and if we're mutually agreeing that the adjustment to the scope would give the board a better plan and a better product ultimately, she has agreed to work with us on that, because we still are having a dialogue without a contract. And until we narrow down, and this is now her third trip since the day she first met with the board, because she had also met previously with the folks from the community center and some folks representing the seniors, and she's learning a lot about Gates County and what we're attempting to accomplish. So it might be appropriate to ask Alicia to maybe tell us a little bit about the type of work they've done. And I think I told you they had done a high school complex with an 8-lane athletic track at one of the schools, maybe in Cary or somewhere.
Not recently done a high school,
Oh,
but we
okay.
have done a number of middle schools actually with 8-lane tracks, because in Wake County, everything's so competitive.
Right.
And we have done some high school tracks in some other counties prior to my becoming a partner. So we're very familiar, and our consultants who would be leading that effort are extremely familiar with high school athletic facilities and community athletic facilities. So that doesn't make me feel uncomfortable in the slightest. I think, if you don't mind me speaking to what you're requesting, is I think this is definitely within our wheelhouse. You know, worked with Wake County, we've worked with Wake County Public Schools, analyzing facilities. So that's not an issue at all for us. I think what would be beneficial is, you know, working with Scott and Lisa and maybe with, you know, some of you, what is critical to evaluate versus just, okay, here's every building in Gates County that the county owns, but here are the critical buildings we think need to be evaluated. Here are the departments that we know are most stressed, or you could look at it the opposite way. We know X and Y are great in their building, we've just moved them in X number of years ago, we feel good about those, so that we're not spending time, right, looking at something that you already know works well or would cause upheaval if there were to be changes. So I think we'd want to start with that, and then would be looking at, you know, how do those work amongst themselves, and also then with this idea of the Buckland School would be part of that. I wanted to, do you mind if I speak a little to the Buckland School, just to kind of, so the last time I was here, Lisa and I went over and just walked the school. And the school, you well know because it's yours, it's built in the 1950s. So it is CMU construction with masonry, brick walls, no airspace in between that, so it's solid masonry construction. It's in surprisingly good shape, and I think that's because the roof detailing was changed to put gutters to the exterior of the building rather than internal drains, which I think has really helped the building wall system be more successful than what I've heard has happened over at your community center, which has internal drains and a parapet roof and the same kind of wall system, and just when water gets in that, it's just really hard to keep it out. It's just difficult. I will say I liked the positives, I think, about that building, you know, putting kind of the sentiment aside, just the building itself, if I were to look at it and not know anything about Gates County or the history of the building, would be that it has some nice high ceiling height in it, right? So a benefit to you all, a lot of those buildings from the 50s have really low, like I'm working on one now that has a really low ceiling height, and it's just not a pleasant space. So I think you have some good floor to ceiling height in there. You know, if new systems need to be introduced, that's a good thing. The bathrooms have never been touched, which is good and bad. They need to be totally gutted and totally renovated. So any occupants we put in there, we would have to look at all new restroom facilities within that building, and then are they even, is there enough square footage there to create a compliant restroom, right, from wall to wall. The quarter walls appear to me to be load-bearing, so there's probably not going to be a lot of opening up of the interior of the building. Where doors are, where transom windows are, we may be able to open it up, but a wholesale, like really opening up that building, I think would be a stretch without some significant structural work. I just kind of want to prepare you for, because people go in, have great ideas, and that's wonderful. They're all good ideas, but sometimes we're constrained by budget or not. If there's the budget to do it, we can. I'm not saying we couldn't. And the other thing just to know is that right now with the BARD units, which are used extensively across eastern North Carolina in school systems, they love them because they can maintain them. It's because they cool that room. They don't really cool the corridor, and they're not great unless, and I talked with my HVAC designer before I came to the meeting. He said he'd have to kind of look a little bit more at the unit itself, but to then distribute that cooling to, let's say, an office, and let's say we turned a classroom into a series of offices, it might be difficult to distribute that cooling evenly. So just know that when we're looking at, maybe repurposing or reusing the original school, those are going to be some of the things that we're going to have conversations about. It's not that it's bad or good. I'm just kind of trying to set you up in the front when you have community members who say, but it's a wonderful school and a great building. It is, and it's a really good building for a school, and it doesn't mean that it's not a good building for another occupancy. It's just that we may need to do some things to accommodate that. I thought some of the benefits was the cafeteria there and the kitchen, because of our meeting with the folks, stakeholders about the senior center. There was a lot of conversation about, serving the community with intergenerational needs of a commercial kitchen or a teaching kitchen, opportunities that a kitchen facility could provide beyond just, having seniors come and be able to have a meal, or having folks come and learn intergenerational, cooking and healthy eating and healthy habits. So I think that's a benefit to that site, that's there. Obviously, we'll probably need some work, if that were to be something you would use it for. But just knowing programmatically what I've been hearing, I think there's a benefit to have that at that site. And the large multi-purpose room is a good large multi-purpose room. Again, HVAC, those same kind of concerns that the rest of the school has. In terms of the newer building, what's great about it, well, number one, it's newer. The same kind of things apply. So structurally, I should have mentioned that if we change the use from an educational occupancy to a business occupancy, they tend to be pretty similar in terms of risk of use. So let's say if I turned a storage building into a library, I would have to just evaluate the whole building for structure, because I'm going from something that's just storing something in it to something where I'm housing a lot of people. Going from educational to business is pretty parallel, but if you start impacting the building over a certain percentage, then you have to look at its structural components. And so with a 1950s building, a lot of the building code has changed their structural requirements. So just to know that. I'm not saying these things are bad, I'm just trying to let you know what lies ahead of you in terms of looking at this building. So with the newer building, because it's stud walls, I think it's a little bit easier to manipulate interiorly because the load's carried from outside wall to outside wall. And all the restrooms are of a good size, so while they might have youth toilets in them, they're all an appropriate size to just become handicap accessible. We would need to evaluate, again, the occupancy of the building. Do we have enough toilets? So there still may be some changes needed to that building, but I think overall the bones of it are good, and the ability to manipulate it may be a little bit easier. So that's what I learned just, walking through it. It has both buildings have a lot of good daylight, which is just really nice. Everybody likes to have daylight. So I wanted to speak to that. So I think in addition to, facilities assessments of places where people already are, we're going to need to also assess your existing facility to see what makes sense to go in there regardless of who it might be. And just continuing along those lines, I think part and parcel with this facility assessment, I think it would be at some point in the process beneficial to go ahead, and we had wanted to involve the community in the senior center discussion, knowing what they would like to see in a senior center beyond the stakeholder group would be helpful to know what does then that 4-classroom building get transformed into. Do we need 2 large rooms or 1 large room and a number of mid-sized rooms, or do we open up? We just kind of need to talk with the community and find out what is it that they're really excited about. The other thing that came out of that conversation about the senior center and thinking about, putting it here is there were some conversations about outdoor use, right? Healthy walking, providing an ability for folks who are older to have paved paths to walk on, because that's not something that they have easy access to. The good thing about this site is obviously it's fairly large and fairly flat, and so there may be opportunities, I think, at this site for site improvements that could incorporate some of the things I've already heard about. So all in all, I would say I think it's a positive direction that you all are thinking about going in, but I did want to give you kind of a background in terms of walking through the school, the challenges or opportunities that we might run into. I think there are opportunities. I think there'll be challenges. And just doing an assessment will help us figure out what makes the most sense, both from what you're using now, what would work best, what can we use that building for that makes sense within that. So have I answered questions and kind of filled you all in on my take on what's there and what it might take?
Do we have any questions, comments?
Don't have any real questions other than a few comments as far as, I think it's prudent for us to go down this road as far as reusing this building for a purpose like this and separating the community center from the senior center. I think long run will be advantageous for the community. Yes, I do agree. Whenever you take one building and you turn it into another that has totally different usage, you're trying to shoehorn it into a space. It's going to be some give and takes along the way, and we definitely understand that. And the biggest thing is, what do we really want to use it for? When you program the senior center for this area, and as long as we can keep the corridor walls and the load-bearing walls, we should be fine. But going on one side of the corridor or other and opening up the space and making it larger for whatever type of activities they want to end up doing there, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. If they want a bigger space, we can probably create that into the other annex building off to the side for a large space, since the load-bearing walls do go from outside wall to outside wall. Yeah. That would be my only concern as far as being able to open up the space to really not be confined by the structural walls that are there. And that was when I was walking it, when I looked at the BARD units, me being in the HVAC world, I was concerned about getting good air distribution out of those things.
So that's my mention, is that we might not be able to use that. It might need a new system, but then again, in the long term, you might be getting more use out of, a good facility. Facility. So I think it's give and take.
Yeah, I'm thinking, with money, you can do just about anything. And it kind of depends on, what is going to be the county's budget for this. What other funds other than the $1 million grant that we have can we pull from other places, and then whatever is left, the county would have to make up with our funds and go from there. So I think that's a big discussion that the 5 of us, 6 with Mr. Sowers, to sit down and really talk about. And where we go from here. We do need a little bit of community input, in saying our thoughts are doing this. What is it that the community would like to see here? And here's your time to speak up. And what do we want to truly end up having here in a few years?
Right.
So I think
Because
that might be our next step.
Right, because there could be other synergies between other departments that they see. If this is a senior center, well, it'd be great if X and Y were located here, so I'm going one place, once a
And-
week or twice a
Yeah,
week.
and my concern with splitting the senior center and the community center is staffing, because then that's two departments to staff as far as that goes. The only use that we've landed on for the building at this point is just gyms and the cafeteria. Beyond that, we're open to anything else, but, and communication about anything else. But I still think before any decisions about the community center being, or the senior center being broken off and being there separate from the community center, that we would need to realistically look at, well, what does that do for the timeline if we're using the budget here for the renovation of this to the senior center? What does that do for the plans for a community center going forward that we were having? What does that do? Because now we're having two projects with that funding versus one consolidated project with the same pool of money. And then secondly, having that assessment of, as Commissioner Forsyth has pushed for, all of the buildings and figuring out what the best option is before it. I agree, a senior center, we need a senior center. We're the only one of 100 counties that doesn't have it. It was reiterated this morning that we be sure that to be able to access federal funding when we get to the point of having a senior center, that we have that, I think it was 20,000 square feet, whatever the parameters are, to be able to have that exclusively for a senior center, where we won't be able to unlock the federal dollars and for that portion. So there are a lot of moving parts, and I'm concerned about the expenses beyond just breaking off and doing a senior center. Because once we do that, again, we still have this whole community center project that we have that we want to do. And when you break them apart, that actually increases the amount of funds we need for the two projects. So that's my concern. Any other comments or thoughts?
I think the assessment is the first step, though.
Yeah,
We
I
need the
agree.
assessment of.
Before we
That's
decide
what
on
should
anything
chart your
else, the
course.
assessment is first.
And not make any other moves.
Right.
Because at the end of the day,
Prematurely.
we want to walk out of here with some type of direction forward.
Right.
And I would think that the board is overwhelmingly in the direction of we want the assessment first. And then while you're doing the assessments, at that point in time, we can have some discussion and maybe have some community events and hear what the community has to say about that. So that way they feel like they got that input that the community deserves.
Right.
And being, again, like forthcoming, when we're looking at funds, though, like that's the primary part for me too, like beyond that is we have to be aware of fiscal responsibility. And if we're creating more projects to cost more money and such down the line, are we really being good stewards of that? So I think we need to be aware of the space and the needs, the true needs, and what the options are and what the cost would look like for both options. Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't have much to say. I'm thrilled. I love everything y'all guys are saying. This is exactly what, so I won't drag it out. I love it. I think one thing I'd add is that, like you were saying about the community center, need for a senior center, when it's all said and done, do the assessment of what we got, and then we, with community input, need to
Right,
give a
right.
prioritization. Here's what we want first,
Yes.
here's second, here's third. And I would assume that's what you would want from us.
Yes,
to
well, I
say-
would help you lead that conversation as well. We would want to be active in helping you lead that conversation.
I'm good.
Yeah.
And I would think that this assessment will be like the basis of a 20-year plan of
Right.
where
Right.
we're going to go over the next 20 years. This is the path forward with our buildings and what we're trying to do
Yeah.
that incorporates the school building, that's incorporating the athletic complex across the road and all those kind of good things.
Commissioners Roundtree and Craddock, do y'all have anything?
No, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Forsyth. Everything said, it's been great. And I think the assessment is going to be very critical. And the reason why I say this, I'm looking at short term. And the reason why I'm looking at short term, I know this will be a long process. The reason I'm looking at short term is I'm wondering, with all this development that's coming to Gates County, and I know we got to assess everything, what would happen if we have an influx in the next year? We've already seen an uptick in student population. The use of that particular building, will there ever be a need, potentially, with everything that's going on, of reverting back to using it for the education system? And that's in the back of my mind. That's why it's so good for us to assess, what we got going on and projecting what's going to happen in the future as best, as we possibly can, because there may be a possibility that we may need that building in some aspect for education once again. So that's my statement. That's something to think in the back of our minds as we assess, as we do our research. The potential may be there. That's all I have to say.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Kerwin. I think
thank
that
you so
we are
much for
looking
having
forward to
us.
that assessment.
Well, before she
obviously.
steps
Yeah.
down, I'd like to talk about some action steps that
Yeah.
I'd like you all to take
Okay.
at the
Crack the whip.
regular,
There we
because
go.
I want to make sure we're on record with the board giving this guidance, direction, and with official action, so when folks ask, well, how did this happen? We can discuss what we've just done. So and I can pencil this out before your 6 o'clock meeting, but I'm envisioning one, I would suggest a motion to adjust the scope of work for the firm that you've selected to transition from a design project for construction to an evaluation, an assessment of facilities project. And throughout this, we need to make sure we weave in the Board of Education if that's what the board envisions, and we could put that in some of the language in the front and maybe throughout. Second would be to give direction to county administration to alert our granting agency that has the SCIF grant that we'd like to make this adjustment. They've been very flexible. Remember, this money was originally to renovate the old community center. And then when we realized what a problem we had, they agreed to use the money for design for a new one. And all indications are they've been, if we articulate the board's intentions correctly, I think they'll be supportive. Third would be to communicate to USDA rural development staff the discussion that the board's having, that we are still intending to have a community center constructed at some point in the future, but given the extensive time required to generate $10 or $12 million for construction, we'd like to make certain that we've evaluated everything that we have locally that the county owns, and we want to assure that that money can be held for us, and even pose the question for new construction or potentially renovating some other space. And then fourth, and I think this is the last one, but help me out here, would be to make sure we have this discussion with the Board of Education, that as we are thinking globally about county facilities, that it looks like you're going in a direction where you want to do this in partnership with the Board of Education, and to think about what some of those school needs might be. And to Commissioner Roundtree's thought, if the schools come to us and say, oh my goodness, all of a sudden we're having this uptick in student population, would there be a need to evaluate, do we temporarily reopen Buckland while you think about maybe building a new school? And again, I don't want to lose sight that the school facilities may include that athletic component, whether it be simply a track or a track and all the different fields and stadium and lighting and parking and bleachers and concession that might take us off-site from where it currently is, just so that we let the public know this is a global examination of what we're trying to accomplish in Gates County for I've heard you all say maybe a 40-year plan, a 20-year plan. and then at the appropriate time, take it to your legislators and say, here's what we got. And so I'll try to
Would you draft that up in just one motion, or would you break it down into 4 separate ones?
I can do it in one motion with 4 parts or 5, whatever, so you don't have to vote 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd probably be better that, I just want to make sure that when we're communicating, that the letters we write correlate with the action the board
Right.
has taken, and that we be very thoughtful and inclusive
Yeah.
and
Well, and thankfully, I mean, Commissioner Forsyth and I have had good meetings with the Board of Education. We're talking about having another meeting 2-on-2 here soon. I know September is supposed to be our joint meeting with the Board of Ed. Supposed to be the, joint meeting with Board of Education. So whatever we have to be able to present to them in September would be, as far as conversational, moving them in, inviting them into this, and beginning the conversation there. That's a good jumping off point.
Also, with the USDA rural development money that we've gotten the grant for, I would like the word it where we could use the whole $1 million for the renovation of Buckland School,
okay.
because it's going to cost a whole lot more than that to do what we're talking about doing.
Well,
So since it's the last $1 million that we
sounds
have
like,
to
but
spend.
you're talking as if we've arrived at we're doing something.
I was going to
Well,
say,
I
but
think we're getting
yeah,
ahead
I
of
think that's
ourselves.
jumping the gun because we
Okay.
haven't decided to do anything with the senior center for sure at the school.
If I
And-
can jump in, I wanted to address what Scott was talking about though, and for what you have to do. I picture this as being, for you, a weird blob of responsibilities that we're potentially asking you to look at. And I guess that's the whole point is, this could be a massive in-depth. I think you alluded to, we only want you to go so deep. I mean, you could go into measuring every room of every own facility. And I don't think that's what we're talking about. But we
Right.
do want generalized square footage of all buildings.
Correct.
And an assessment of the buildings of what.
Like a
how
visual
usable they are.
assessment, yeah.
Because, for instance, Buckland School is in pretty decent shape, you
Right.
alluded to. We've got other buildings like the one over here by the prison.
That we, yeah.
Is that usable? What's that worth? You know, and an inventory of all of that before we make decisions is all I'm
Right.
trying to get at. And I
I
think you
agree.
have to have the latitude in talking to your firm
Right.
of what level of detail and how long you want to take it. You could make this into a 5-year-long
I'm
project.
concerned about.
Right, and that's why
before we
I
have a
initially said, I think
plan.
with guidance from the county, we need to determine what's on the table and what's off the table, either
Yeah.
because we know it works and we don't want to touch it,
Because if we
or we
keep
already
doing
know
it,
it's so
we'll
bad.
Yeah.
And
We don't need
do
to
have
I-
an up-to-date inventory that's done, I think biannually, with
Yeah.
our risk management folks.
Yes.
With the square footage, with the replacement value, gives you the age and
Right.
such, so there would be a tornado or a fire or
This would be a
whatever.
start.
So there wouldn't have to be any measurement type stuff.
Your normal risk thing, do you assess the building facilities and all? Like, for instance, Mr. Green's assessment of the HVAC gates, Gatesville's pretty bad.
I don't know that has been done.
That might be,
but
that's
that
all I'm
might
getting
be
at, that
something
could be
that-
worthwhile
right.
as a part of that. Even if that's a great starting point,
Right.
save them a lot of effort. But also, we need to really say, hey, yeah, we got all these buildings, but 3 of them are totally crap as far as systems go.
Right.
Yeah, okay, all right. I'm just-
Yeah, but I
I'm
think,
sorry.
Right.
I think
We have the
before we,
authority to-
I think before we try to seek to redirect any funding, we have a plan, because they're not gonna let you redirect things and redirect things and redirect things, and I would be concerned with doing
Yeah,
that too
and I guess the
early.
expectation would be in consultation with our design firm.
Yeah.
We're going to iron out this scope of work, bring it back to you in a document that can be approved as part of
Right, that would
of a
be-
contract.
Yeah, that would be more, yeah.
And deliverables.
Yeah.
So basically, what we want to be given is the county manager the authority to work with the
Yeah.
design firm to create
Mm-hmm.
a scope of work.
Correct.
And
that would
then from there, we'll vote on that and move forward.
So the
Essentially.
elected officials don't have grandiose schemes that we can't really fulfill. That's what it's really about.
Yeah.
I think guidance, as I said in the beginning, on what buildings are on the table, what buildings are off the table, that just
Right.
helps solidify, what departments are off the table, what is on the
Right.
table. And even within that, if there's something, that you're like, well, we know the senior center, right, we've talked about that. But if there's some department that's like, this is really the highest priority, just to know that from you all.
Do we
Or
want to
from-
have them look at the course buildings at all?
I would say every county-owned building, right? Is that
I
the
think so, unless you give us a reason not to, or if some assessment, some portion of an assessment can exclude it. Then you take
I'm
it.
just throwing it out there and asking.
I think you ought to have it full.
Because it ain't like we're gonna be building a horse building anytime.
Yeah, well, we need
But
to
the
look
same-
at it. I mean, it's,
But at the same time. if
There are
it's in
offices
bad
within
shape,
there
yeah.
that, there are other offices within there that if anything, so I think having a full assessment of all county buildings is what we've been looking for and talking about. And that way we know if there are things that are not happy, you know, that aren't working where they're at, we do have opportunities to move things over. But, yeah, if we're gonna do it, I think do it all.
okay. Again, I just want to make sure we're able to clearly articulate
Yeah,
to everyone that this is has been a collective decision and I'll say united effort to focus on the task at hand so that we don't miss an opportunity to use these grants and to seek
Yeah.
other.
I would hate to not do one building and have a department left out, so.
Okay.
Right. And then that would be the one that says they have to have an immediate.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, you good with that as
Yeah.
far as, so you're gonna put together the motion that kind of wraps all this?
Yeah, while you all are
Okay.
having dinner, I'll be honest, because I had a big lunch.
I had a big lunch as well.
The chair put together a big lunch for us, and we've got several
Clerk.
boxes of food left over for your dinner.
So I just have one if you don't mind me asking a
Please.
question. So that scope of work is understood. So what kind of scope, because we are discussing the senior center, would we want to have any community input about the senior center or take kind of what we've heard from stakeholder, you know, meetings, or do we want to have at least one kind of senior center discussion that does not even talk about where it is, right? Because I hear you, Emily, you make a good point. Let's not just assume something's going somewhere before we have the assessment. But I think we do need to hear from the community, not necessarily just the stakeholders, about what they want in a senior, because that will inform whether in fact this site is a good idea for that, you know, what's generated this whole thought process. And then we get to the end of it and like, well, we never heard from the seniors, and then we hear from them and all the things they want either do fit there or don't fit there, right? And it
Right.
doesn't work. So that'd just be my question to you all.
Could we take the list that we already have down from the stakeholders that you've already met with?
Yeah.
Take that and generate some type of a, I don't know, preliminary sketches or something like that.
I don't
that-
think I have enough information yet to do that. I would need more of a community engagement. And we can do community engagement that does not even talk about a building.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that does not say it's about this
And
site or
that's-
this site.
That's what I was getting at, is like, how are you gonna get community engagement with it if you don't have something to, this is what we're thinking? This is what.
We
was-
talk to them about values, we talk to them about activities, we talk to them about how often do they use it?
Yeah.
How much would they be engaged? What adjacencies, let's just say, I would love it if I could meet with the county nurse when I go there, or I would love it if, you know, I could pick up my food. I would love it if I could drop my granddaughter off and she could read a book, right? That leads us back to that. But, you know, I would love it if there were some activity for my grandchildren so I could go enjoy my card playing because I'm responsible for my grandchildren, you know, I'm the caretaker. So I think those are the kind of things we'd want to elicit from the community when we're talking to them to help us understand whether this site could or could not make sense for those needs. Yeah, yeah.
And as there, when we were with the stakeholders and there had been discussion about an athletic track, which seems to have really caught the attention of the Board of Education, there were seniors saying, well, you know, people in the public
Yes.
would like to
They
be
would
able to
like to be
use
able to
that, to
use
have a
that.
safe place where you don't have the trip hazards, you might have
Right.
lighting in the evening that they'd want to use, and that's where the suggestion was made about working with the Council of Government, the Albemarle Commission, to maybe host a senior Olympics in Gates County at some point, because other communities are able to underwrite that because they've got the facility. But if you don't have a track, it's tough to
Right.
take something like that on, so.
Yeah.
When you're doing the engagement, I mean, that's a good point, because what was crossing my mind is when you're asking for feedback, a lot of folks here haven't had stuff
Yeah.
You know, so they don't know what they've missed. Do you have the
Right.
ability to kind of promise it?
Yes.
We can't promise you, but
Yes.
would these things be of
We-
interest? Things
Right.
that
Yeah, yeah.
others
We
are
have
doing?
a consultant on our team who's a senior center specialist. And so
Okay.
I would plug him in to be a part of this conversation
Okay.
And
and
if I
guide
remember
that.
correctly, that was one of the major points for
Yeah.
your firm when we were talking about it, was
Yeah.
the senior center, like, expertise on
Right.
that, so.
He'll have the questions.
Yeah.
And we've
Even
got
more
people that
specific
are
to ask.
asking, well, why don't we have a pool like they have up at Currituck? There's some other function they have in Hertford, I can't recall what, so there are folks that are looking
Yeah.
out, wondering, is there a way to accomplish this in Gates County?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, look forward to it.
All right. We'll have enough direction and we'll be
We'll
in
be in
touch.
touch. and
Okay.
Thank you for
All
making the
right.
drive.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
all.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you
I
again.
appreciate
Thank you
your
very much.
openness,
Appreciate it.
conversation.
Thank you. Okay. So next item is the gym's relocation from the county annex building to the Buckland Elementary School campus cafeteria. So Manager Sauer is going to help update us on that one.
Well, let's talk about the exterior first. It's our understanding that the lineup of citizens that would want to use the pantry has become extensive,
Yes.
arriving well before midnight, rather. And using the location we're currently at the county annex, they end up across the road at the ball fields.
Yes.
And there was,
midnight?
At 2 a.m. they start. Yeah, about 2 a.m. they
there
start.
was discussion that if we bring the citizens in at the northernmost drive and have them come around the back side of the building, they could quote unquote queue along that area and then come up to the cafeteria, the kitchen door, and then exit at the southernmost drive. And
Coming in over here and circling
Right,
around to
right.
here. There would be a barrier here, so they don't go beyond the beginning point in the morning. And so they would have this
Right.
.24, I think is what we tracked it on the car mile, so it's a little less than a quarter of a mile.
And in I can't even remember who was in the room, but there was a conversation that involved Danny Hale. And I don't know that we'll need to confirm this, but one of his thoughts, because we were talking about getting rock, or Brad's been coaching me on using slag versus rock because it's so much more cost effective.
Yes.
My driveway's.
Yeah, $17 a ton versus $59 a ton, and that was 2 weeks ago, maybe higher now, but, and we were talking about working with Brad Roundtree, or any other local supplier of this stuff for the transportation. And Johnny Green, I think, has met with someone out there indicating there might be 2 tiles that need to be installed to help with the drainage on that road, which shouldn't be too much.
Drain pipes.
The drain pipe,
Okay, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Or as they call him in Burt T, juggins.
You are from the country.
Yeah. Somebody had to explain that to me. But anyhow, the reason I mention this, and I know we'll have a representation from the Board of Education here tonight, there was indication that the school board might cover that cost. And if the commissioners will recall, we budgeted $80,000 for our transitional expenses for Buckland, for utilities and maintenance and things, but we really doubled that number. We overestimated by 100% what we thought it would be for an annual arrangement. So if that rock or slag were to cost $10,000 or $20,000, I think we could afford that within that $80,000 that we have, because Mr. Hale also had indicated that for this mowing season, the schools are covering the mowing. And when we went for our briefing with the legislators this morning, and they heard that Chair Truman was on the way, they had the bush hogs rolling quick. And the place looked great. I mean, the bushes were trimmed. I mean, but apparently the school board and administration is supportive of maintaining the exterior landscaping for this mowing season. And that's a very generous offer. The redoing of the drive could be a little much because I don't know what else they're into. And I think somebody had mentioned to me that the refrigeration renovation, that might have been Commissioner Berryman, that said we might need to help support that too. Because I know Mr. Green was trying to be attentive to having things ready so that the gyms can start their transition. We've also had Mr. Tutwiler, the fire marshal, review the building, and we can lock those doors between the gym and the cafeteria to meet those federal regulations for securing the food that's in the possession of the gym's organization, and still have adequate compliant egress and ingress for fire type stuff. So I think we're well with moving ahead. There was another move. There's it's a metal, what I would call carport that they had for the picnic tables. The picnic tables are gone. I'm presuming the school system moved those somewhere. Maybe somebody in the neighborhood has a new picnic table, but there were about 8 of them, and they're all gone. But nonetheless, the GEMS organization would like to have that repositioned near the entrance, or maybe even right up abutting the building. I'm not sure.
Across the drive from the actual school structure, it's a little parking area. If you're facing the school would be on the right. There's a little parking area on the left, and they would like to have it put over that little gravel area.
Okay, well, we'll need to have them put down some cones or
Yeah.
spray paint the corners generally where they want that to go. And I'm going to guess if we end up using a contractor such as Brad Roundtree, he would find a way to relocate that structure quickly for us as well.
Yeah.
County Manager, I want to bring to everyone's attention the slag product that was mentioned. I want everyone to know it's a byproduct of steel. And what's going to happen, it's going to fuse. And once it fuses, you can't, if you want to, in a future date, pave it or put concrete over it, it's not going to take. You're going to have to dig that byproduct out, that slag out. Now, unless you're going to exclusively use slag continuously, that's no problem. And slag is cost efficient, it's very cheap. But it is a byproduct of molten steel, which will fuse.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Brad took me out and had a field trip out at the SBR wastewater treatment plant because we're using slag there, and he made that point that it does sort of solidify.
Yes.
And I think long-term, we probably would use the slag product as long as it's the most
Okay, that's good.
cost-effective.
Good information.
This Brad seems to think that's a good solution for some of our
Yeah,
utilities.
my driveway, it looks like it's a concrete driveway that I put in probably 3 years ago. Pretty long driveway, and it's extremely stable. And
Right.
you just got to make sure when you put it in very level from the start, whatever you're going to set it at. Because it's like Commissioner Roundtree's pointing out, it's going to be hard as rock right now. And Brad's drove his dump trucks in there on it, and it don't hurt it at all.
Okay.
It's great stuff.
The only thing, if you plan to
Yeah.
pave or, concrete, you're going to have to dig it all out.
Yeah.
But if you're going with that exclusively, great product.
Well, I appreciate everybody's trying to help me learn about slag. So I learned about juggins on the other side of the river. I learned about slag on this side of the river.
I never heard that.
Still teaching old dog new tricks.
I've heard
Right.
it called juggins before, but I can't remember.
So, but yeah, so GEMS has distributed in their last month in their August distribution that they would have their first distribution there September 19th, which worked well because they would not have been able to distribute at the location they're currently at in September anyways because of the fall festival that's going on at the ballpark. So it was a timely transition for them. I know that there's a lot of work to be done on that in the next few weeks because they have to move everything over, get everything set up, all of those processes. So again, the first distribution is September 19th for whatever that is worth.
So question two, just to state for the obvious for the public is, we're talking about, expenses that are going to be one-time expenses by the county and the school for
Yeah.
setting up the road, repairing the HVAC, moving the.
With funding that is left over from consolidation.
I got that. I just want to make
okay.
sure it's a one-time cost.
Yes.
And then after that, it's not going to be a recurring every year, or if the road needs repaired, if we use slag, we may not have to touch it again, but if they came back in 2 years and said, hey, we want to expand the road, is it going to be up to us again automatically? I mean, not to say it won't be justified, we could decide at that point, but I don't want to build in the expectation it's
No, I
automatic.
mean, it's a one and done.
Yeah,
Okay.
one and done.
All right.
But we may make it one and done and make sure it's just a little extra wide.
Yeah.
We don't want to
Well,
skimp on this.
I think Mr. Green pointed out, that might be why you're talking about putting in your, what was it again?
Juggins.
Juggins. There was a couple places behind it. Assistant county manager's laughing at me, I think. But Mr. Green was pointing out when we were out there that there was several places behind there that got really wet. And if anybody got off the pavement, that's the key, is we really do need to make it exceedingly wide, because if a car breaks down, it could stop the whole game completely until all the cars in front of it are cleared out and that car's able to be towed out. So that's the thing to keep in mind. The extra wide driveway is pretty critical. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So are we on? Let's see, is
So
there
this
anything
was
else on
really just an
Jim's?
update, just to make
Okay.
sure we're all
Yeah.
on the right pathway.
Yeah.
Because I believe when,
So-
our update we're getting from the school
It's
this evening
included in
is
that,
gonna
yeah.
be, they're gonna talk about that a little bit as far as
Yeah.
involvement.
All right.
And by the way, we did print out the
Okay, yeah.
report
Board of
from the
Ed.
schools that's in front of
Yes.
it that they sent last night. So
Okay.
if you want to take a preview.
Okay.
One thing that Mr. Green has said would be a wise investment for gyms that they probably need to look into is getting some type of monitoring
We had that
device.
conversation, yeah.
Okay, good, for the freezers
So-
and everything, because even though he's ordering some new evaporators and condenser units, it'll be a little while for it to get here, number
Yeah.
one. Number two, with them not being here and them using it, that equipment's pretty unreliable, and so he's had to fix it a lot. And-
Yep.
And it'll be good to have something in there to let them.
Yeah,
know.
that conversation was had when we toured the building, yeah.
Good deal.
And along the same lines, Jim's has also asked for a couple of security cameras toward
They have
the
asked.
entranceway, and I've been working with the IT staff costing that out, and we'll
Okay.
try to get something consistent with what we
Right.
use in other county buildings.
Great, so the next item was the community fireworks funding proposal. The board received an email communication last week from the Gates County Community Events Committee regarding this year's National Night Out event that requested funding for support for fireworks. And for those that don't know, the National Night Out is something that's done nationally, either in August or October, where police departments, sheriff's offices around the country come out and just engage with the community. It's big for community engagement. And so that was, again, we received that email, that request for funding. It's going to open the floor for discussion. I am going to forefront that by saying the Community Events Committee, that Gates County Community Events Committee has done so much for bringing things into Gates County for the past several years without asking for any funding from the county to this point. They are responsible for the Lights at the Mill Pond organization. They do the Fall Festival, and annually they've had Easter egg hunts in the spring. They organize the National Night Out. All of things that bring vendors, bring people, that especially the Lights at the Mill Pond, bring in lots of people week to week out there. And this is the first time that they have come to us asking for it. Also, a little segue into that, we are, as a county, going to start having a booth at these events and having hopefully some commissioners out there to engage with the public, different things like that. So we are trying to get more involved with this group as we move forward, just for transparency and communication purposes when it comes to engagement with the community. So I'll open that now.
And I think it's standard for local governments. I know in surrounding areas to finance fireworks during the 4th of July for their particular counties. And this would be a great contribution for the events committee from our local government. And it's something that's standard, and as you said, they have done so much for our community. It's the least that I think that we can do and support them financially for their first ask.
And for this first one, we're talking about the Fall Festival now.
That's what I was going to
This-
say is,
well,
I'm
this
okay
is-
with the fall festival. I don't like National Night Out
This
as the
is-
use for it.
I think this was for National Night Out, I believe is what the email request was for.
Was it?
And that was, yeah, I would say communities are partnering across, like again, across the country, nationally, communities are partnering with law enforcement and doing kind of big deals for National Night Out. The idea is fireworks bring people in, and you want that community engagement with the sheriff's office, I think was the point for that one. But the Fall Festival is during the day, it ends at 2 or 3 p.m., where National Night Out is in the evening, which would also make a difference for fireworks.
Yeah, I think it's all great. They're trying to do something pretty cool and new and exciting for Gates County, but Mr. Sauer, correct me if I'm wrong here, but doesn't the local governing board also have to approve the use of fireworks for an event or something like that?
Yes, no matter who's putting
Right,
on the
right.
show.
All right, so we have to approve it from
Yes.
the get-go.
And I don't know what the tradition has been in Gates County, and I don't know how often we have a town or a Ruritan club or an organization that does fireworks, but the statutes do
Yeah,
require
never.
that the board
Never.
approve it, unless you delegate authority to the fire marshal. In one of my counties, they had the county manager approve those permits. But I just assume you all know what is happening, so
I don't think we've ever.
whether or not you're putting any money in it,
Yeah.
you would have to approve
Right.
the fireworks display.
I don't think we've ever had a fireworks display legally.
Not a, not a formal fireworks display.
Counting all
Yeah.
the guns going off on New Year's near my house.
So I got one other thing. Has Mr. Tutwiler been brought in as far as his thoughts as far as fire safety and all that kind of, because it's not like we're shooting it over top of the Chowan River.
No, I have not, this just came to my attention.
Last week,
Well, it
Thursday or
came
Friday.
in Friday morning while I was driving to Durham, and I didn't see the email till, I think Monday morning. So I have not had an opportunity to talk to him.
Yeah, I would want, him to understand very well where they're planning on shooting them off,
Yeah, that's a good question.
where the trajectory is going to be, and what the fire hazards could possibly be, and is this something safe for us to do within our county? Because, it'd be one thing if we had a waterfront and this, yeah, we're going to do it right here. I mean, that would be easy. But because we don't have a waterfront, we got a lot of woodland and a whole lot of kindling on the ground. We want to make sure that what we do here
Okay.
is safe.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, location's gonna be key,
Okay.
unless, they do it,
Yeah.
the creek or
Yeah.
something, but you said they want to.
I mean, it would be at the ballpark is where National Night Out is being hosted, so,
Okay.
Easton's
So I
ballpark.
started to talk before, I'd like to finish if I could, y'all. My problem, National Night Out, that's done by every county, and it either do it in August or September. We don't do fireworks 4th of July, never have. To me, that would be first, foremost priority. Then the second one is Fall Festival. That's for us, that's our festival for the county, and that would be a case where I think other communities could come join us. And if we had a fireworks thing, I could see that be an extra incentive maybe for neighboring counties to come participate with us. If they're doing their own National Night Out, or they've already done their National Night Out, or getting ready to have their National Night Out, they're less likely to participate in ours. And so, I mean, for the number of people and everything, I think that's a big expense one time for the National Night Out. I'd almost engage them and ask them, hey, would you rather extend the Fall Festival till later in the evening and fund it for that when it's a county facility or county function that could draw in others? I mean, that's just my preference. Then the other concern that comes in with this is okay, we do it one time. We spend $5,000 for a National Night Out, and I understand absolutely the importance of it. But are we then locked in again? Does this become a recurring cost every year? The expectations going to be the county provides a $5,000 fireworks stipend and approval for this function. And I don't want to support that without more clarity. Even if we were to go forward with National Night Out, I mean, to me, it's the gift that never stops taking. When you do it once, the expectation's in there, and everybody's going to scream and holler how great it was. You got to do it again next year. And I'm not so sure that's the case.
Yeah, and I would also like to draw them in for a conversation as well, too, as far as, the bigger picture of what we're also trying to do. And I think we're going to hear a presentation this evening about some of those things for the the Merchants Community Center and what they would like to do out there and all that kind of good stuff. So that may actually trigger some more conversations with them to be able to use that space and what we could do in the future with other events, and maybe bring back something that the county has been asking for us to bring back for a long time.
How much revenue do the Fall Festival generate for the county? Anyone know?
I mean, that would just be sales tax from businesses that claim their taxes.
I think
It's more
that-
social.
I think that'd be a good thing to look at, to see the return on that, to see if we would fund that or the events. Looking at the return on investment would justify us making any kind of contributions to whatever activity that's taking place. If it's getting a good return, yeah, we should do it annually. You know, especially if our margins are slim on what we are investing in. I mean, if our returns are great, yes. But if it's not financially feasible to sustain that, then, we shouldn't do it.
All right. So we will move along
The
with
the first thing on it is the safety
the
aspect.
safety aspect. Yep.
Have Mr. Tutwiler look at it, because we might not be able to even do it, So, but the safety is always first.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I mean, no matter if we fund it or not,
If it's not a,
we got to approve it for it to be done legally. So before we even approve it, I want to know if it can be done safely or not.
Maybe we only spend $1,000 firework and just have it in a cornfield, and we'll get a big show after.
oh my goodness. Okay. All
I've
right.
set a cornfield on fire with fireworks before.
So I won't ask questions. All right. So I guess just more information on that, and then we can revisit. So water projects and administrative updates. So we're going to turn back over for an update on the committee.
Thank you. Originally, I was going to try to squeeze Dr. Spruill in this evening, but we are not quite ready to report. And I'm talking about well 2A. And this is our emergency replacement well. And I've been learning a lot about how, this is my next, I've been learning about drilling mud. Apparently, once you construct a well using drilling mud, the removal of the drilling mud and opening up those screens is a tedious process. In fact, we've been advised that another well being done in Pasquotank County, they've been trying to develop the well for about 3 months. This was under Mr. Majet's. We believe we're real close. There's a process we're going to be starting in the next few days, and all that, Brad, jetting, is that the, where they will, well, why don't you, I mean, I did ask you.
Come up here and explain these juggins to us.
Along with the jetting.
To my understanding, I've never seen this process done. I guess there's some book they call the Well Driller's Bible. What did I tell you the name of it was? Dexter's?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like a blueprint. It tells you how to build it. Well, they're building one. And to my knowledge, from what it was explained to me, it uses high volume and low pressure. It only uses 5 PSI. They go in and inject chlorine, let it sit over the weekend. That's supposed to help break down the mud. Then they pump it all back out. Then they go back in and inject. It's called thins it, which
It breaks down to,
yeah, it makes the clay stick together and where you can pump it out. So that's where we're at right now.
And in between, while we were doing some of the testing, and this was not our equipment, our contractor was using a pump and electric motor, and we burned up a motor. So we did have a little bit of a delay getting a motor replaced.
I think I did find out that was a factory defect, so that wasn't on us.
Okay, well, that's good, because, I think Nate had mentioned at the last meeting, we had some voltage variation on the three-phase power that had been detected, but, and Dominion did come out, did evaluate, in fact, they've left a meter on it to continue to track it, but they didn't think there was enough of a variation, but But that was not a loss to Gates County. That was the contractor's loss, but now it looks like, I guess that'll be replaced. But nonetheless, at the current time, we're at how many GPM?
About 350.
350.
Okay.
And we really want to be north of 700 if we can.
According to Dr. Sproul, we're sitting at about 40%, and we need to be at about 75.
But we are making good progress there. So let's switch to a couple of test wells on the Buckland property. And Dr. Sproul's real excited about that as well, and is suggesting we try to examine both the upper, in fact, I've got some handouts. Hopefully you got enough there for everybody up here. There's Brad.
Thank you.
This is the Buckland site with the highway at the top of the page. North and south is right to left. So we're in the far back corner. There are, I think, 3 pages to this. The second page is simply one of Dr. Sproul's slides that he used in an earlier presentation about the different aquifers. The last page was started because Brad and I initially had discussions about putting the test wells up near the highway. And there's some method to the madness. While the on-site wastewater system is still active in the eyes of DEQ, we've got to stay 500 feet away from the nearest edge. Once the on-site wastewater system is deactivated and DEQ is notified of that, we can be just 100 feet from it. So I think it's a red arc you'll see on there. That's sort of the 500-foot line, and it puts us terribly close to the highway. And would you say we were off by 5 feet?
Yeah, we're off 6 feet.
6 feet.
So from the edge of the berm of the waste treatment plant to the roadway, we need 600 feet, and we're at 594 feet. So we can get 500 away from the waste treatment facility, but we can't get the 100-foot setback from the roadway. We miss it by 6 feet.
Well, DEQ has been consulted at the Washington Regional Office, and they've indicated that for the purpose of doing test wells, we don't have those limitations. Those setbacks are only in play for the production wells. It will be public water supplies. So we're back to the locations closer to the rear of the property where the wastewater treatment facility is, and there's no permit required for the test wells. And given the time for design, permitting, testing, everything takes much longer than I would have ever imagined. And the person you spoke to yesterday was Cliff, right?
Cliff Whitfield.
Yeah, seemed to indicate that by the time we did our test wells and worked on our permits, we'll have reached the point in time where that sewer line will be installed to Buckland, this wastewater plant will be deactivated, and everything will likely fall into place without hardly any variation in schedule. And that also then preserves that area closest to the road for any other sort of community activity program, whatever that might be. So that's the direction we're headed on that.
So Would we have to do anything with the old sewer once it's deactivated?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir. It can just sit right there. Maybe cover it with sand or something, but other than that, that's about it.
On some of your other projects, and we do have 3 wastewater projects. We've got the wastewater plant restoration on Honey Pot Road. We now have, as of last Friday, I guess it was, the approval for the plans and specifications. We've got authorization to go to bid. Those bids will be published Friday of this week. We'll be reaching out to contractors, and they'll have a 30-day window to present bids to us. And we are hoping that there's some real serious interest in the work in Gates County, and not just TA11, but we think some other folks, based on communication that Brad has had with contractors, he knows that there's going to be folks really interested in working with us. The real challenge county management has is the timing with the local government commission. Because each of these wastewater projects has a loan component, must be approved by the LGC, and in order to get in front of the LGC, you have to have bids in hand. Likely, the wastewater treatment plant is going to get out there first. There's a slim chance that Buckland and T.S. Cooper will have their plans and specs approved in the next week or so. I'd like to say before September, but August 31st is Monday. I just don't know that we're going to get there. We've had a lot of very positive communication with DEQ saying that it's ready. They've done an electronic signature, but they're waiting for the hard signature, and it just hasn't come through the pipeline yet. And where this gets real interesting, William is the we right now, up to his eyeballs in the audit. And we want to get the audit done as fast as we can, hopefully in October, no later than November. But we've been told that if we don't have the bids in hand by October 6th, that we can send them up, we'll likely have to use the 26 audit. And the analyst at the LGC has indicated that could be the February LGC meeting. So even if we get bids in hand, we will have to have the contractors hold those prices until we can clear the LGC component. But if we might get one of them through, but I don't know that we'll get all 3 through the LGC schedule. But it's coming. The other one soon to be out is the water tank, the Town of Gatesville elevated water tank. We'll probably get the permits, and that doesn't require any LGC approval because that's all 100% grant. I'm told there are only 3 contractors in the United States that are still in the tank construction business. I think that. So our ability to bid that project and get it on schedule may be dictated by forces beyond our control.
Do you need any type of formal action from us as far as moving forward with this plan, or is this where we're going?
Test wheel.
I would prefer to have something on record, just because I think it's always good to have something on record.
Okay.
Because 18 months down the road, somebody's going to ask why or how, and I'd like to be able to go to the minutes and say yes.
What was the thoughts, the question about you, as far as putting the wells side by side? 'Cause there's two production wells here.
And
Well-
that's where we really had hoped to have Dr. Spruill, because one's going to
Yeah.
test the upper Cape Fear and one's going to test the lower Cape Fear. And we want to see which one has the highest volume production. Is that?
I mean, there may be only the possibility of having one. He just put 2 up here because if they do the pilot test and say the upper Cape Fear does good, which is the aquifer we currently use, They're gonna drill down to the lower Cape Fear, and if it produces water in a lot of volume, then potentially down the road, we can install another production well 50 feet away. As long as they're in separate aquifers, you can do that.
Because in the total grand scheme of the water system funding that we got funding for 2 more production wells.
Correct.
Correct.
Is it right now the thoughts that we put both the production wells at Buckland? And one in the lower Cape Fear, one in the upper Cape Fear? Or are we just doing the test wells
We're
to see
just
what we
doing the
got?
test.
Just doing the
to see
test
what we
wells just to
got.
see what we got.
And this is an incremental process.
Yeah, all right, see what we got.
Yeah.
But if we got good water in on both aquifers, are we gonna just go ahead and put both wells there, or are we still?
Well, I guess that would have
I
to be a
think that's where
decision
we
y'all
bring
would
Dr.
have to
Sproul
make.
back in and
Okay.
have that discussion with the board and let him advise us.
So are we
Having
currently
them in
looking
close
for another
proximity,
pump?
you're not gonna be able to have 2 right side by side and have them in constant production. The drawdown on each will influence them. That's what he talked about before, just common well thing. You won't wanna have them too close together. If you really need the volume from both of them running at one time, you won't wanna have them side by side.
But if they're in 2 different aquifers,
When he was
If you're
saying
in
you
2
need
different
2
aquifers, but that's the whole thing is that they test for
Yeah.
2 upper, 2 lower.
Yeah, that's what
Wouldn't have
he
4.
was targeting is one at 400 feet roughly and one at 800 feet.
So you have 2 wells, one in the upper Cape Fear, one in the lower Cape Fear. We're gonna see what the productions are, and then we're gonna come back and decide if we're gonna put,
1, 2, or none. Yeah.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
ultimately, that would still be y'all's decision, whether, you would want one there.
Are we currently still evaluating any possibilities of having, buying an acre or 2 of land somewhere else on that side of the county to put another production well?
We're still, well, I guess that's a question he's answer, not me.
We have not made any progress on that, given the adjustments we've had to make on well 2A to make sure we're progressing with the development of that well. So we have not, to my knowledge, talked to another property owner since we talked with the last 2 or 3.
But I have sit down with Lisa, and we've got a few landowners and different, basically down Highway 13.
Yeah, we still need to keep that activity on our priority list as well.
All right, I want to bring up the elephant on the table. I've spoke about this. Who's going to be the bill payer when you put in the new pump station there? Because you're talking about abandoning this. We haven't talked about anybody occupying this except Jim's, which is a once-a-month operation. And we're going to put in a pump station pumping from here to a wastewater facility, the cost of operation, the cost of routine upkeep. Who's going to be the bill payer for the operational cost of this? Because the school's no longer going to be the bill payer. So we're talking about moving forward with a project that has no bill payer, and it was a great concept when this was an active school with hundreds of kids and teachers and everything in there daily. And now, I mean, have we evaluated that existing wastewater system with a reduced demand now? Instead of having probably 250 people a day using bathrooms there, we could potentially, even if it was a senior center, we might have 40 people there on a routine basis. And I think we're charging ahead to spend money because we have the availability for it to build a pump station and pipeline, and we don't have an identified bill payer, and that's going to be a recurring annual cost for keeping that up for you and your crew to run. Somebody's going to have to, take care of that. Somebody's got to pay for the electricity, repairs, et cetera. And the only identified occupant we have right now is Jim's. And moving forward with building a facility, this is a field of dreams thing where if we build it, we think they'll come, and I just don't think that's a smart thing. And I realize I may be the minority and people talk about potential development in the area and everything else, but there's no, clear, concise means by which we can say a small pump station here is absolutely going to be big in economic development for this county. I just don't see it. And further, I mean, if we do have somebody want to come, will this small pipeline be adequate for a big industrial business or a large commercial? Probably not. So saying we're going to build it because it has potential to expand economically the area, I don't think it does. And my question would be is if we have some use of this area, can we still continue to use that septic system? Could it be cleaned or rehabbed? They often do that. Rehab the solids out of it, reset the sand filtration system, and it could function very well without becoming a big bill payer, needing a bill payer for the system. So,
Well, yeah, you bring up very good points, Dave. Very, very good points. And, you know, I've always been in the mindset with this is that I always hear stories and hear discussions of things that the county passed on in years past where, you know, I was talking to Johnny the other day and he brought up the whole thing where years ago when the county was having the high pressure gas lines run through it and the natural gas company, you know, asked the school board at the time, would you like to have natural gas run to all your schools at a cost of $100,000? Well, if we would have done that back then, we would have natural gas at all the school buildings. And the amount of money that it takes to run a natural gas boiler versus an oil boiler is substantially less expensive. Now, if we were to do that, it'd probably cost almost $1 million. So we have an opportunity here to put something in, and we're not having to foot the whole bill for it. Because just the line running from to Buckland is approximately, how much did we budget for that? 2 million something?
You mean the construction?
Yes.
Cost, I don't have that on
Okay.
the top of
Don't
my
have the
tongue.
breakdown.
Yeah, it was a substantial amount of money. It was over
Yeah.
$2 million,
I don't,
is all what I want to say.
No, Buckland's about 1.3.
Yeah, 1.3.
Because it's only
And-
about 4 miles.
Yeah.
Whereas no, it's about 4. Yeah, here.
It's about, it's
One of them is,
right at 3 miles, and T.S. Cooper is 14 miles, I think.
Yeah.
But there's a percentage that is forgiven, right?
Yeah.
that's correct. Well, the bottom line, even if the school was to remain open, the county's paying the bill.
Mhm.
Because we provide the money to pay the utilities for the school system. And this was not set up to be built into the water rates for our utility customers. Well, right now, we only have 7 customers. We have the high school, the middle school, the old prison where the EOC is, the community center, the credit union, the rehab center, and the library. We have 7 customers. And we're still under a moratorium. We can't add any more customers till we get this facility
Right.
rehabbed. And because we have such low flow, our systems run very inefficiently. And Brad's been beating the drum for me to understand we need more flow. And that is where we are headed with this. The debt service in our plan from day one has been to use the capital reserve fund to pay the debt service. The debt service, if all 3 projects were to complete the same day, and then we start payments 6 months later, because that's the way that the thing's established, our payment would be $130,000 a year for all 3, for 20 years. And our capital reserve fund can more than adequately handle that. So there was never an intention that, and again, let me just explain. Our total expenses last year for our wastewater system, I think we're under $100,000. I mean, it's not an expensive system to run. It's a difficult system to run because we do have such flow and we do have 2 systems. And he probably gets more aggravation out of the new one
I do.
than we've had out of the old one. So we're trying to somehow save the $5 million investment that was put in that wastewater system out on Will Lane many years ago that's never been fully utilized and sat idle for 6 years.
If I may, and we are more than welcome to continue conversation if we want to go there, but I do know we are coming up on having to prepare for our regular meeting at 6 o'clock, and you have motions to prepare that you had mentioned.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I didn't know if anyone was looking at the time. We are welcome to continue talking if that's what y'all would like, but I want to make sure we're all aware of the time. Okay.
But in summation of all that,
Yeah.
I still feel like this is a good deal. we're getting a big bang for our buck as far as what we're doing. And I don't want to look back 10 years from now and go, well, we had this opportunity, but we didn't do it.
Okay, my summation
And you're
my
exactly right.
summation, then I've let y'all talk,
Yeah.
go back and forth. My summation is just because we have money and can build it, don't mean we should. And saying, oh, it's a little cost, and oh, we can pay this out of the thing, we can afford to do it. If we don't need it, we don't need it. And there's no clear justification that we need this thing. We're gonna spend taxpayer dollars just because we can afford it, and we might use it one day, and oh, we might regret it. Well, if we spend it now, we're spending taxpayer dollars for something we don't know for sure we need. It's just not good. And I talked to the state guy, and he had said, yeah, you haven't reviewed this, haven't had the designs approved, you shouldn't be anything close to advertising it. He was the technical lead that reviews all these. And I said, what would happen if we came back and said that we didn't really want to spend this money right away? Could we delay it? Yeah, potentially, you can ask for anything. They're real flexible if you're trying to make smart decisions. So we won't look bad to the state. Talking to DEQ, and I called them on 2 or 3 different occasions, they said, it's not a bad thing for y'all to say, let's pause and look at what we're doing and take the time to do it. And with this facility study, you know, if we could ask them to say, hey, could we wait for 6 months or a year and decide if we need it? If we're going to put something in there, then yeah, let's build it and do it. But if we're not sure, building it just because we can doesn't mean we should. So that's my summary. You know.
Thank you.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right. We are adjourned till 6.
Hey, Brett, so your pump
I'll be right
that
back.
failed?